Hello and welcome to another episode of the Innate Ability and Health podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Kimball, and today we're going to be going over a very interesting and important topic for anyone who's experiencing non-optimal physical symptoms and trying to do something about them that is as effective as it possibly can be. It's also great for just improving your state of health and taking it to the next level. So wherever you're at, listen, this will give you some good tips and pointers. I call this the body's forgotten language or misunderstood language. And I specifically go over how to decode symptoms and then turn those into a healing opportunity. Okay. So to clarify, when you're talking with someone and they are upset, they respond to you in an angry manner, or they may say things that they don't really mean because at the time they're angry. They're in a certain emotional state. That can be true of a good friend, someone you don't know, of a loved one. It can be true of pretty much anyone. It can be true of yourself. We can all think of times when we were angry and we said something that we didn't mean, or we said something that was hurtful or whatever. And any of the other emotional states can have certain types of things that are said when a person is in that emotional state. When a person has had a really bad time for an extended period of time, they may feel apathetic. They may feel like nothing's going to work. So you may talk to them and they may give you responses to really good news that's not what you would expect. Or you tell them that you just got a great job and they actually respond in a way that they're maybe jealous or upset that they're in their condition and you're in yours, right? And depending on your level of communication with this person, that may result in some non-optimal relationship situations. So take that idea and apply it to your body. Your body is a living organism. It's not an inanimate object by any means, right? And it has different emotional states that result in different types of communication. Now, your body may or may not be able to give you the correct communication depending on where it's at emotionally. So let's say you've had a chronic situation going on with your health for many years. Your body may be in a state of anger or apathy or grief, and that contributes to the symptoms that it expresses. People often become more symptomatic or cyclically symptomatic. And this is usually associated with certain things like for women, maybe their cycle, or in people in general, maybe the environment, the time of year, seasonal situations. But while those things are true, and I'm not saying in any way, and I always mention this, that the physical aspects are unreal or it's just in your head, I will say that it's usually completely missed the mental and emotional parts of this. So if your body has been under a lot of stress physically, not doing well, having gastrointestinal issues, etc., it's probably at best in an angry state. Possibly it's really upset and in a griefy state. It may even be in an apathetic state, not thinking anything is going to get better. And we want to acknowledge that and understand that when we're getting other symptoms, when we're experiencing something. If you're experiencing, for example, gastrointestinal issues, and instead of resisting and fighting them and thinking they're the worst thing, we have to change our viewpoint and start to listen and understand where this might be coming from on a mental and emotional level. Let's imagine your best friend comes up to you and says really angrily that they're upset about something you did and they don't want to hear it. They want to hear any of your excuses. It totally wasn't okay. You shouldn't have borrowed the car without asking or whatever it was, right? Well, if they're a really good friend, you're probably going to listen and understand and try to resolve the situation. And maybe even if they're not, hopefully. But imagine if you didn't do that. Imagine if you just immediately got mad at them and started telling them that you weren't okay with them acting this way. Their communication was not welcome or accepted, and you weren't going to have anything to do with them either. Obviously, that would just foment the situation and things would get worse. It's the same thing on a physical level with your interaction with the body. And usually when this is pointed out to people, they get it immediately. But if it doesn't make sense, try to think of examples on how it could be that way or why it might be that way for yourself. Long story short here, you start interacting with your body and paying attention to it and figuring out the underlying mental and physical trauma that's related to why that was so upsetting or why that body's having so much trouble, you will get more results. And you may or may not get those results if you just pay attention to the physical aspects of it. Oh, gastrointestinal issues. I'm going to take more probiotics, more prebiotics. I'm going to clean up my diet. Great. You should do all of those things. But what happened when you were 7 that really upset you? And ever since then, you've had kind of terror stomach when similar occurrences happen. For example, maybe when you were 7, your dog fell in the lake and almost drowned, and it was really upsetting to you. And at the same time, you ate some tainted food. So now tainted food associated with that trauma, and they kind of lock up, and the next thing you know, you're having chronic gut issues your entire rest of your life. Or maybe progressively, maybe it doesn't even turn on until you're in your 20s or something. That can happen too. The point is, trauma can be tied up with physical incidents, which then cause you to have psychosomatic illnesses later in life. And if you don't start looking at it and figuring that out, you're just going to end up with non-optimal results forever. Of course, nobody wants that. So I just wanted to point that out, how this works a little bit so you can understand it. Okay, what are symptoms really saying? So let's imagine a person has a set of symptoms. Maybe they have chronic fatigue, they have gut issues, they feel anxiety, they get migraines sometimes, hormonal swings, and they have aches and pains for no apparent reason. Not an uncommon profile for a lot of the people that I work with anyways. A lot of people will be very much resisting the chronic fatigue. They'll be hating the fact that they don't have any energy and can't get things done in life. And often that dissatisfaction with what's going on with them physically turns into dissatisfaction with themselves. And that's when this compounds really badly. So next thing is the gut issues. Maybe they get really upset about the way they have to eat and how strict it is. And this again brings them as a person down into lower emotional states. Maybe they're angry about it. Maybe they're upset about it. They feel grief, or maybe they're just apathetic about it, right? And then migraines. This, again, person can feel and resist the migraines and not like them, and so on. We can go down the whole list there, right? What you've got to do is start looking at these things as communications from a good friend that something is wrong, and dig underneath them while you're experiencing them. And it is a challenge to do, but it can be done. And there are methods I'm going to go over for doing this later on in this podcast episode, which will get you started. They're by no means the complete solution. But often these physical symptoms, especially if they don't resolve pretty much immediately or in an expected amount of time from the physical handlings, have trauma, emotion, stress, toxic personalities tied in with them. And until you break that hardwired in factor, then you're not going to get the results you want to, or not as good as you'd like to or should. So let's say you had a really toxic personality in your life who you had a relationship with, and every time you ate, they talked to you about your body composition and whether you were overweight or not, and whether that food was healthy for you or not. And you developed like complex, a mental anxiety about what you're eating due to the fact that somebody kept talking to you about that toxic personality, that person who didn't have your best interests at heart kept talking to you about your food. Now, most people go, okay, good. Yeah, but I've run that and I've looked at that and I still have gut issues. Okay. That's where you're not really getting to the root of it. So just like we have root cause physical aspects to what we need to do on our health journey, there are root cause mental and emotional aspects. And the mind and your emotions are not simple. If anything, they're even more complex than what's going on in your body. So you may have had that toxic personality, but what you haven't realized or looked at or figured out is that it's attached to 3 other people in your life that you had. Maybe they weren't toxic personalities. Maybe they were good people, but you had run-ins with them. Or it's also attached to a trauma incident you had when you lost something when you were young, or lost someone when you were young, or not so young. And that's now tied in there too. And until you unwrap and get rid of all the different things that are underlying that symptom, that physical condition, you're not going to get the result you're looking for. Now, it is intricate and there are many parts to it, but it's not hard to do. You just have to know how to do it, right? The spine is delicate and intricate, but a chiropractor knows how to adjust it and make everything go back into place so you, again, have restored communication in the nervous system, right? And this then in turn gives you more energy and can provide all sorts of benefits. Same thing on the mental emotional level. You have how the mind works in order to associate things, and its ability to not associate things that should not be associated allows you to have a healthy state of mind and a healthy body and a successful, happy life. This is a new way to look at your symptoms. Instead of how do I make this go away, what is my body trying to tell me? What is my body trying to show me? And look at just the simple act, and now we're getting into what we do. Just the simple act of looking at the pain that you're experiencing in your body, and or looking at the non-optimal physical condition you're experiencing in the body. Just looking at that, not resisting it, not feeling like it's something you have to handle, but just looking at it will allow you to begin to create the space in which you can address and understand what is going on with your body. You first have to look. The first step is looking. Now, that may sound simple, or that may sound like something you already do, but if you already did it successfully, then you would not have the condition that's associated with that symptom on the mental, emotional level, right? So you also have to be willing to not know all about this and learn how to use these techniques and then apply them. I get so many people who say, oh yeah, that sounds like therapy to me. Well, it may have similarities in there. This is part of the reason you haven't successfully handled the underlying symptoms. You think something's similar to something when it's not. And this was where it also gets tricky, because as soon as you go into, well, I think that this is the way it works, remember, if what you're doing isn't getting the results, or you've done therapy and worked through that, but I still have the symptoms, you haven't done the right handlings. Therapy addresses things in a certain way to allow people to move on in life. And usually that's it. There is a lack of information on how to get rid of the psychosomatic aspect. That's why I am a psychosomatic healer. In handling the psychosomatic aspect, it usually also resolves the life aspect of it as well. But the two of them are not necessarily always addressed in the same way. So that's the first thing. Now, the other thing is, while you're looking at, let's say you have a pain in the stomach and gastrointestinal issues, and you just start noticing it and paying attention to it and looking at it and being willing to be there with it, not resisting it. I want you at the same time to admire it, because if your body's giving you pain, it's still communicating. Think of a person. If they are yelling at you and they're angry, they're still in there pitching. They're still trying to resolve something. They may be doing it in a less than optimal manner, but at least they're communicating. They're not all the way down in apathy where nothing's said, nothing's felt, and life just goes on in a low state of unhappiness and poor health and degradation. Your body's not at that level. If it's in pain, if you're experiencing symptoms, then your body's still fighting. And you need to admire that and acknowledge that and be willing to fight with it and experience what it's experiencing. When you do that, then you're on your way towards understanding what's going on and getting to the root cause of it. I have a very specific approach that I use for this that requires some buildup. But basically, by looking at these symptoms and then finding out when they started. So let's say we're talking about the stomach here. We have stomach pains going on. I really don't have stomach pains going on at all, but I'm just using this as an example. So let's say I have stomach pains and I can go, okay, 3 years ago, these stomach pains started. What happened 3 years ago? Now, this will not get you to the root cause, but it may get you to what triggered it. And sometimes if you can just recall what triggered it, don't overanalyze it. Don't go, oh, that was because of blah, 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 blah. It may be, and you may figure out something there, but more often than not, you just go down a rabbit hole, which then brings everything back, right? So all you want to do is spot it. It's a very simple recall the moment this started and then what happened around that time. And just recall that, and that's it. And try to get that as much certainty about it as you can. But don't go down a rabbit hole. Just recall it. And then bring yourself back up to present time, back up to the moment that you're in. And again, admire what's going on with your stomach and try to not resist it. And the last piece, this is very important. This is where you administer a laying on of hands. Now, this is a tool that's been used for millennia. This goes way, way back, where a healer of some sort would come in and they would lay their hands on the area that was affected. And by doing this in various ways, they actually help the body heal. And come full circle to modern times, we understand that this is allowing your body and you and parts of your body to be back in communication. And when we say in communication, we mean circulation is happening, blood is going back into that area. When pain turns on in an area, I think we all know that your body can sometimes turn off circulation into that area as a protective mechanism. So we want to restore circulation into that area. So all you want to do is put your hand wherever that is and put your attention on your hand. And that's all you do. You put your attention on your hand. So if it were your stomach, you can't see this, but I'm putting my hand over my belly button, putting my attention on my hand, putting my attention on my hand. And you want to get the concept of looking down through your body and noticing your hand, putting your attention on your hand there. So you're getting that full communication. You don't just do it in the same spot over and over again. The most you'd want to do the same spot is 3 times in a row. Unless as you're doing the same spot, you notice something turn on. Like if you feel a pain turn on as you touch the same spot with your hand, or laying your hand over that spot, then you would do that again and again until that pain lessened a little bit. And then you'd move to another spot. You keep moving to different spots. And usually the results of this will not be dramatic in one session. This is something that you would do over a long period of time. So I just went over a little drill there. We're looking at whatever's going on with the body. We're not resisting it. We're being willing to be in the same space as that. We're flowing at some admiration. And then we're going to try to figure out when was the first time that occurred and recall what might have been going on at that time. Don't worry if you're not totally certain or whatever. Just do your best. Come back to the moment and put your hand over that spot. Put your attention on your hand and do that. And you can do this for 5-10 minutes daily. Right? You wouldn't necessarily do the recall part of it every day. What you would do on a daily basis would be to put your attention on wherever that's happening, the pain, and flow some admiration in there, and put your communication into that area basically, and then put your hand on that area. And this very simple technique, you can use this regularly. It will improve healing and it will improve your ability to communicate with your body and be in a good space with it. Now, this is not going to get you to the root cause of what's going on psychosomatically, but it's a step in the right direction. It's a step, and these are tools that you can use in your day-to-day that will give you some relief and start putting you in a position where you're really able to heal from past trauma, stress, toxic personalities, you name it. So if you have been struggling with unexplained symptoms and you feel there's a psychosomatic connection, there's past stress, trauma, toxic personalities that you have attention on, or maybe have a feeling that this may be connected, that's your own knowingness, and you are able to know these things. This is an area that is not understood that well in common practice. So that's why I felt so passionate about sharing this with you and with others so that you start to understand it. And none of this information I came up with on my own. I have learned it and learned how to apply it, and I can go over that with you as well, but that's another conversation for another episode. So remember, you're not broken. Your body's trying to communicate with you. Listen to it, learn to listen to it, and you will start getting gains that you may not have expected or known were even possible. Until the next episode, go out, make it a great rest of your day, enjoy yourself, and thank you for listening.